So we are back from recording an amazing podcast with Miguel Baltazar. And so this podcast will hopefully be out in about a month from now. So you can check that out. But we got a few questions from your fans on Instagram.
I have fans?
You
Oh
do.
my God.
I know.
Whoa. What's wrong with them?
So this is a new thing. He is going to be answering directly to you guys what you asked him. Shoot.
Okay, so I don't know if you knew Gavin at school, but he's a friend of mine.
Oh, yes.
And so his question is, what's your favorite art medium?
Ink. Pen and ink is my favorite. The reason why is because with pencil, you always have to erase and, you're not really fully committed to the mark you're making.
Oh.
With pen and ink and also with storyboarding too, it's just great just to be loose. At least with pen, you're just like, okay, I made the mark. Oh, whatever. I'm just going to keep going. So that's what I've mainly used, and it's awesome for gaining confidence, and it looks good when you're doing it right, and it's quick. So
That's
Nice.
awesome. Sweet.
Nice.
And
Next question.
Next question. We're going down. So, Daniel, shout out. He's getting on the podcast,
Oh, sweet.
Jugenberg. So this is, I thought, a really great question.
Uh-huh.
And we talked about this a little bit in the podcast,
Yeah.
but he asks, what part of your culture has influenced your art the most?
Ooh. Wow, that's a great one. The part of my culture would be the people. I think for me, and also the architecture too, if we're getting very literal, the people themselves just create this vibe where, for me, it's like I want to be able to have my art tell the stories of these people. Going to Mexico and visiting my grandma's house and just seeing the way it's built, it really speaks a lot to the hard work that's put into building a house and building a community and building a safe space. And for me, the people are the part of the culture that motivates me the most. And so for me, one of my original stories talks about an Aztec superhero in the future that kind of symbolizes my life growing up and also symbolizes the hardships, but also the great things that Mexican people have experienced and also the Mexican culture.
And if I may throw one on top
yes,
of there,
yeah.
are there any stories, or would you like to tell more stories involving those kinds of themes and concepts?
Absolutely. I was actually even thinking about doing a zine about my dad's journey from Mexico to the U.S. just to kind of showcase just what it takes for a parent or for someone to sacrifice their upbringing to uproot themselves and move to a place that they've never been to before. I feel like that's something that I haven't really seen in an animation medium or in a comic medium. I would love to tell that story just to kind of really acknowledge the sacrifices that a lot of Mexicans and Latinos and even other minorities too, uprooting themselves from their countries and going to a place that they've never been to before. That's something I want to tell because that's something that I acknowledge fully, and that's something that a lot of people don't really understand. And I want people to kind of understand the struggles and also the fruits of the labor of having to do that. So.
Well, yeah, and we talked about in your podcast, just seeing your dad moving here from Mexico and then you accomplishing so many feats as a result of his hard work as well as yours. I mean, that's awesome.
And I gotta say, at least for us, Latinos, for us Mexicans, we never take anything for granted. Any little accomplishment is seen in such a big light, and my dad just he just the look on his face, he's just so proud of me. I know, but he was proud of me from the beginning, but just the fact that I was able to accomplish something that he kind of doubted for a bit. And he's just so happy, and that's something that part of my culture that I appreciate is that they don't take for granted the accomplishments that people make. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you.
We're the same person.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Drew Tipton asks,
"Oh, cool!
Shout out, Drew. Love you,
Shout out, Drew.
Never met you, but
what inspires your style?"
Part of it has to do with studying other people's styles. And also, too, kind of trying to find ways to be different. For me, I've always been a fan of that angular style, that angular design where characters are just very pointed and angular. I think Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles TV show has that kind of style. And for me, it's a matter of studying styles that I like, which I go through on Instagram and I go on their blogs and stuff. And also part of it too is something that I want to see. So it's not so much using style as a crutch, but using it as a reference point.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm influenced by a lot of Disney artists. Adam Dix is one that comes to mind. Shi-Yoon Kim, who is the character designer on Spider-Verse.
And Big Hero 6.
Yeah. And then to like other artists too, I kind of take those pieces of their styles that I like a lot, and I kind of try to fuse them together and try to create something different. And like I don't want to go for a certain style. I'm just trying to like figure out what's something that I want to do, you know. So
that's awesome, man. Nice. Well, and the fact that you've done so many different things like we talk about in the podcast, I think it's cool. Like you were talking at the beginning of this questionnaire is you using ink and you know expanding your style, and that leads into something else we talked about in the podcast, and that is from DeMarco Cruz.
Oh, DeMarco!
Shout out! Tips for getting a board revisionist job.
Ooh, okay, that's a lot. DeMarco, come on. I'm just kidding. Yeah. That's a great question. Part of it is like finding storyboard portfolios. There's a couple that I know. Chris Jimenez, who's a board artist now at Cartoon Network, he has a great blog spot. chrisjimenez.blogspot.com. That's a great one. And I can't think of any other portfolios, but like just finding like those animation portfolios in specifically to see what it is that companies look for. I think to like work on storyboards. That's the biggest thing. Work on storyboards. Have a lot of roughs. Do a lot of gesture drawing. That's a big thing because that's the thing that they want to see is that can you interpret anatomy quickly, and also too on your resume really focus on any sort of freelance gigs that you've done, any sort of projects you worked on in school. And this is like if you know people are in school and like are close to graduating. And then like just knowing what the company looks for. But the biggest thing is just having a good solid storyboard portfolio that has rough patches in it. So like if your boards are clean throughout, have a couple panels that are really rough just to showcase your thought process. And then also to having gesture drawing and then showing sketches of your character like in a shorthand. And then also to having turnarounds of your character. That's something I didn't do in my portfolio, but that's something that's a really crucial thing is you're showcasing your design skills, but also you're giving yourself good reference for your characters because you need those turnarounds to get an idea of how to draw those characters. And then your cover letter too. Actually, artist jobs don't really require cover letters. It depends, but really your resume has to showcase things related to storyboarding. If you've taken courses online like schoolism.com, which I've actually taken right now, those are great. And finding anything that relates to storyboarding, you know.
That's awesome. And you brought up in the podcast your own work. So can you just say it again for the purposes of this video where people can go so that they can learn? So
to check out my semi-okay stuff, you can go to MiguelBaltazarArt.com. If you follow me on Instagram at MiguelBaltazar_art, I have a link in my bio to my website. If you want to check out the storyboard that one of the directors saw at DreamWorks that ended up getting me the job I have now, I feel like that's a good reference point to see someone who's still fairly new to the industry, but also seeing the things that got me the job. So you can check out that stuff at those platforms.
Nice. Awesome. Nice. Now we're going to move on to some slightly different questions.
Yeah, this is from my friend Matt at school, who goes by Marble Bear. Shout out.
Okay.
Shout out. His question for you is, do you have any cool socks?
I do, actually. Actually, I'm not wearing them now, but I have some cool Batman socks. So I have some yellow Batman socks. I have like the insignia on the side.
Oh, nice.
And then I have a pair of black Batman socks that's kind of like the inverted version of it. Where it's like black and the insignia is yellow. And then I have some R2, or actually some BB-8 socks. I have some Spider-Man socks. I have some Cartoon Network socks.
Oh my gosh.
What other socks do I have?
We know what to get you for Christmas.
Oh, please. Oh my god, please. Please. I saw some really cool Captain America socks. I don't have those. I think that's it. Those are all the socks I have.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. That's amazing. When I read that question, I was like, I love Matt, but I was just like, okay. But like, you're totally down.
Yeah,
that's
he got
so
lucky.
Cool. Yeah.
we need to like include at the beginning of the podcast that you were also a sock aficionado.
Yes.
Part of your bio.
Part of your bio.
It's part of your transferable skills.
Yeah, just put on your resume and you have some cool sauce.
Any job you want, you'll get it.
That's the secret sauce. You need to put out cool sauce. Or some cool socks, and then you'll get hired. It's a shoo-in.
Perfect.
That's the perfect thing to say.
All right, and the last one by Luigi Manessa, which we had on episode 11
of
the podcast. He asked you to finish this quote. Those eggs were a lie, Steven. A lie. They gave me no ego powers.
They gave me no nutrients.
Yeah! Shout out to Nacho Libre.
Well, awesome. Thanks everyone for checking out this video and for checking out the amazing art of Miguel Baltazar.
Thank you guys.
And thank you for coming on the podcast, man. We super appreciate it.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. I'm getting a little emotional there.
Yeah.
Let's cut it right now.